Hello, our loves. You've got Joanne and Elizabeth here with you from World's Cup of Joe, Awaken Your Soul. Super excited for this conversation because it actually came as a download to me, this specific question in the middle of the night, so much so that I was like, I like reached over my bed, put my glasses on, and wrote it down in my notes because I knew I'd forget it if I fell back asleep. And I liked it that much. And I knew, Joanne, you and I could high vibe during answering it and really, really bring about some cool shifts for people. So a lot of times we get sort of not necessarily questions, but we get people coming to us and they're just like, at the beginning of working with us, this journey feels like a curse. Why am I punished with this journey? Why am I being punished with meeting my twin flame and going through this connection? And so the question that came to me in the middle of the night was, what is the purpose for meeting your twin flame to get addictive energy and obsessive thinking over them when all that's going to do is push your twin flame away? So think about this question, because the addictive energy and the obsessive thoughts are an activation of your awakening, right? This is an energetic connection. And when you start getting that addictive energy surface within, rise from within, you're actually starting your awakening. And it's really cool when you look at it in terms of energy. So what's going on? You meet your person and suddenly after the bubble phase, or some people have it during the bubble phase, you get this intense energetic surge of addictive energy, obsessive thoughts, and you start feeling like you're going crazy. And yes, it pushes your person after soul recognition. So what's the purpose? Why are we put through this? Well, we're put through this. We're given these addictive and obsessive thoughts because if we weren't, let's all get real, we would never work on ourselves. We would never further our spiritual growth if we didn't feel the discomfort, the pain, the anguish, the turmoil, the sometimes like the darkest moments we've ever experienced through this energy. We would never continue to work on our personal growth. And our person, their role in our journey is one role and one role only, and that is to continue to be our catalyst. They awaken us with the energy, and then they continue to be the catalyst that keeps aligning us back to soul. So the purpose of the energy is the energy is coming to the surface so you can release mind. If you don't have the addictive energy start to rise within, you're never going to be able to identify when you're in mind and when you're aligned with soul. You're not going to even think about it. It's not going to even be a thought coming to the forefront if you don't experience those energies, which become so repulsive. And actually, those same energies are what are an awesome way to realize, not only when you're in the energies, but to be almost like a gauge for you to say, I don't want to go back to that. Like when you start feeling them. And I love talking to clients when they recognize how the energy specifically feels when they're in that addictive obsessive energy, because when you're in the cusp of it, like before you start researching what this is, before you really know, and you're in the throes of that energy, you just don't even pay attention to it. You identify as the energy. You think that it's you. You think that you are all of these intense emotions that are running through, coursing through your body. And once you start awakening and you realize those are no longer you, you can spot them and say, wow, I felt that. It felt gross to me. And I never want to return to going back to that person, that identity that gets a hit off that energy. I don't want to use that energy for a hit. I want to use it as a way to remind myself to never go back there. So your obsessive energy and your addictive energy is there for you to navigate your way through this journey, leading you to release the mind and find your way to how it feels to be aligned with God source energy, aka soul, aka your twin flame.
So I was just brought to this place of when a person comes in, when they come into our space, in every scenario, in every situation, before we recognize the addictive energy and we balance and then they come back in, right? There's that shift between our clients. We hear it. We hear them feel the ickiness of that addictive energy like coming through them, right? It's almost like, oh, Joanne Elizabeth, I was doing so well, but I ended up leaking and I ended up like looking at their social media. I ended up leaking and I ended up, going to their workplace. I ended up leaking and I ended up talking to a friend about our TF journey. And I just felt so icky. I felt so like off. And it was like almost like the cusp. It was like the final turn of events that pushes you into this place of surrender, right? So it's almost like the addictive energy has a purpose. Its purpose, even though it pushes your person, if it didn't push your person, you wouldn't be working towards it. Would you have really worked towards it? I asked Elizabeth on earlier today when we were talking. I was like, if your person didn't leave, right? If he didn't leave your house and left you and told you like the addictive energy was too crazy, would we all really, let's get real, all divine feminines, would we really work on this ascension?
I want to point out with this, because for those of you a little bit newer to our channel, so I was with my person, living with my person for 1.5 years, and I was in addictive energy. We were still considered the bubble phase because we hadn't had full recognition yet, but I had addictive energy from the moment I met my person. And so while we were living together, when everyone would typically be like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky that you got to live with your person for 1.5 years. No, because that 1.5 years that I was in extreme addictive energy living with him, I was the most depressed. At one point, if I wouldn't say suicidal, and I've said that before, I wouldn't say suicidal because I had my children and I would never do that, but I didn't want to live, if that makes sense, even though I was living with my person. But at the same point, it was just enough that I would have never started researching how to get better. I would have stayed in that place of intense, almost like purgatory, hell, whatever you want to call it, because I'd already stayed in it for 1.5 years, living through those energies, because I was so obsessed with my person staying and keeping him there. And I didn't understand that the gateway, the pathway to peace was through me. I kept thinking it would be him. I thought as long as he stays and if he keeps showing me he loves me, if he shows me a little bit better that he loves me, I'll feel peace. I never realized it. The whole 1.5 years, it was this longing for something more externally from him to show, to prove, to do, and it never surfaced into peace. And now looking back, it's like, well, of course it wouldn't have, because the peace had to come from within. But no, I would have stayed, and I'm sure most of you guys would stay even in the toxic addictive energy and never start working on yourselves if your person was there right alongside you.
Yeah.
But at that same token, it's like the purpose of our journey is to progress individually as like a shared soul, but individually, us being the divine feminines, the leader, the one who is the awakened one, to lead us both to this higher level of consciousness.
I think we wouldn't have worked on it to this extent and capacity because it would have just been a soulmate. It would have just been one that's still there. Like, yeah, maybe you're having, because I did have addictive energy, right? We still had addictive energy. We might not have pushed them, but I don't know if we would really be to this extent of conscious, awakened. Oh, I pushed my person's
I feel like it was more like looping. I feel like I was looping every single day in addictive energy. And I feel like the dark night was what I really, really needed to catapult me into finding solace, some kind of solace, because I knew I couldn't survive much longer in the energy that the dark night brought. Like I could survive long term in the horrible push energy before separation because my person was there, and that was enough to keep me like wanting to live and my kids wanting to live. But the dark night, it was like you're either gonna sink or swim. Like you're either doing this or you're not doing it.
It's almost like you have no choice. You have no choice.
Yeah.
You're catapult in this journey and you have no choice but to keep swimming or just exist. Like it's like you have nowhere else to go but onward forward, even though you want to go back. Because I always wanted to go back. I always wanted to be with him in that separation phase of just wanting to reprieve this part of me that felt like it was empty. Like I felt so empty because
Wait,
there
say
was
that
so
again.
much
You wanted to go back into how things were prior to the addictive energy. Is that what you're saying?
prior to losing him. I wanted to go
Yeah.
back to the state where, before
The
my addictive
almost
energy
like
was so
how
crazy.
where you can meet in mind, like almost like a
Correct.
soulmate relationship. You wanted to go
Yeah.
back to where you could exist in mind together and not push.
Yeah.
Look at all the work you have to do now,
Yes.
all of the
Yes.
spiritual stamina you had to, it's almost like going to the gym and just sitting on the bench watching everyone else work out. And you're like, but this feels so much better doing it this way. Well, yeah, but you're not like burning calories. You're not building muscle. You're literally doing nothing except sitting
Yeah.
down. And that's what it is when you are coexisting in a relationship that allows you to stay in mind, feed the mind, and never have to work on alignment with soul.
You would just be in mind and you wouldn't have had a spiritual awakening. You wouldn't have had a dark night. You wouldn't be consciously staying conscious. I had a tantrum, right? Mine had a temper tantrum over the weekend because I was trying to make my person a soulmate in my head. Like, you need to do this for me because if you don't do this for me, then I'm not whole. It was like, you have to do this for me. I wanted him to be able to satisfy my mind the way it was
Joanne,
before.
tell everybody what you used to tell me, that you would look at the the picture of Jasmine and Aladdin. So Joanne used to look at this picture of Jasmine and Aladdin on the wall and be like, wouldn't it be so much easier if I could just have a soulmate and we
I
could like just
did.
do
I do.
you were like
I do. I
jealous of the
fantasize
soulmate.
about it. I fantasize about it and like how easy does Jasmine have it because he doesn't pull. How easy, but she's not gonna have a spiritual awakening either. Right?
How easy does she have it?
She totally has it easy because
Yeah.
she's just gonna be in mind and he allows her to be in mind, but there's no spiritual growth and she's never gonna awaken. So I guess she doesn't have it all. She doesn't have it all. Because now that we're awakened, so we talked about this with a client, which makes total sense. She was torn between being able to be with, because she has an opportunity to be with a soulmate, or obviously be with her person if and when he comes. But she's torn into like, I don't think a soulmate resonates anymore because I have to be in mine, right? She was having this like torn, like between which path do I take? And honestly, I don't even want to be in mind. Like, it's not even that she wants to be with her person. She's just saying the conditional love, the soulmate template does not resonate.
I want to say that you can actually be with the soulmate and try to align with soul and use the same techniques that are growing us spiritually for our person and use that with the soulmate. But I guarantee you the mind is going to take the easy path and start to go back to mind when they're with. That's the problem with the soulmate, is the mind takes the easy road out. But with your person, you can't ever take the easy road out. You can't. You are forced to continue to align with soul. Whereas let's say you went in with the best intentions. You know what? I'm gonna practice balancing. I'm gonna use this opportunity with a relationship with a soulmate because it resonates right now, and I'm gonna use it as a tool to stay aligned with soul, to not have judgment towards this person, to not have expectations and preferences to my soulmate. And I'm going to guarantee you mine's going to take the easy way out and fall back into that conditional pattern of loving with conditions.
It's not even just the soulmate too, because let's just say, okay, fine, I choose solitude. Even interacting with people, other souls, it puts you in mind. It puts you in mind so quickly.
It does. It does.
Then you're not working on your spiritual journey either. It's like okay, fine, I'm not going to do the soulmate thing because I know the soulmate thing's going to put me in mind, and I'm probably
taking that vow of solitude because or a vow of silence, right? Because you're going to stay away from mind energy and getting into mind if you're no longer talking. As long as you choose to interact with people, especially asleep people, the mind takes over. You start going into thought. It's just natural.
Yes.
That is the reason why we were created to be alongside people, is because you can't stop mind if you don't know soul. So now that you know mind, now that you know these energies, you can actually use them as a way to reflect, balance, work your way up the scale of consciousness. So the people become our balancing. I want you guys all to hear that. People and interactions become balancing tools. I want you to, the next
Yeah.
time you get into mind with a soulmate, with a family member, with a friend, with a coworker, go home and reflect. How was I in mind? Where was my energy at? And how could I have done better to have stayed in a place of no preference, no judgment, and no expectation? Because each time you do that, you are raising your levels of consciousness and you are aligning with soul. You are working on your journey through that interaction. Even if your person's not there, you're still working on your connection because you're
For
still
sure.
working on your alignment.
We totally get so many questions of TFs, divine feminines. That's like, well, I feel hopeless. Like I'm not working on my journey. How do I work on my spiritual ascension? My person's not here. I haven't
No,
seen my
it goes,
person.
yeah, what next? What next?
Yeah.
Because my
Yeah.
person's
What do I
not
do
here. What
next?
more can I do?
Right. And what you don't realize is every moment is your opportunity to align with your person. Like every moment is an opportunity to choose mind or align with soul.
I'm using my dogs as an example, but that's because they wake me up every single night in the middle of the night. So last night, again, and I use it as a balancing tool. I'm not even joking, you guys. So last night in the middle of the night, it's like, I think it was like 3 or 4. My dogs get me up. I take them downstairs. I take them outside. They go to the bathroom. I go upstairs. I then have to like intentionally try to fall back asleep because once I wake up, it's hard for me to fall back asleep. So I'm starting to get to that place of falling back asleep. And one of my dogs, Gideon, he's sitting by the bed looking at me and starts whining, which means he wants something and he wants me to get up because he's not laying back down. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Really? And he kept staring at me, he kept whining. So I got back up again, went back downstairs, let him out. He didn't do anything. And then I was like, I'm going back upstairs. I'm going to bed. And he finally came and sat on my bed. And I was like telling myself, this is a lesson for me. Him doing this is a lesson for me, because the more and more I get into mind about them waking me up in the middle of the night, the more and more it's going to keep manifesting itself that way. And I can either choose to be in mind, fear, anger, or I can respond to these midnight wake ups with love and not let them affect me, not let them sway me. And I'm going to guarantee they're going to stop, or else they're going to be different. I'm going to experience them differently. But as long as I continue to react to them through mind, I'm just going to keep reduplicating the same scenarios.
Why does it have to impact us, right? I was just realizing when I was working on my spiritual journey very deeply, I remember blaming my kids that they're not letting me meditate. They're not letting me get deep. And finally, I realized, I'm like, they're kids. You know, we'll have TFs that say like, well, I'm not going to be able to work on my journey because as soon as I wake up, I got to take them to school. I got to go do all this thing. And now because of that, I'm never going to, work on my ascension. And so I had a moment where I'm like, they're kids. They're always going to be kids. My kids are always going to do things that kids do. That things they do have nothing to do with me and my ability to be present with this here and now. Same with your dogs, right? What is it that you're choosing to align with because your dogs are always going to be dogs. They're always going to need to go use the restroom. They're always going to do crazy
And why do I let them keep getting me in
things.
mind? That's a me thing, right? It's not the dog thing. It's a me thing.
Yes. It's not. It's not a kids thing, right? It's not that our kids are always going to need a ride. Kids are always going to need to get somewhere. Our kids are always going to be loud. Our kids might always fight. But what are we doing that we're allowing them being themselves in what the current now experience is, to where we've now aligned with the part of us that is not soul.
Same thing, like if it takes you out of your peace, it's too expensive. Why are they taking us out of our peace? Why are they taking us out of it? Exactly.
We're choosing to no longer align with soul by the experiences around the externals versus our ability to be internally at peace wherever we are, and to consciously choose peace wherever we are. So I need to share with you guys, I have this favorite place. It's like this beautiful shop that I always go to, and there's multiple locations all over the valley. And it's
It's a
like a
high-end
special,
grocery store, everybody. It's a amazing food deli counter
they
that you
do.
can't
Everything
find
is
food
amazing.
anywhere else. Yes.
It's like very rare food selections, amazing chefs. And
Yes.
I've been complaining to Elizabeth basically like I'm not going anymore because I don't like waiting and I don't like the
Hold
experiences
on to go. I'm not even joking. Every single day when she would drop her kids off at school, she would go, and that's where we would work together. Like she would take me
yeah,
with her, right? Because I was in a different state, but we would do all of our videos there. She would just sit outside and she would have her lunch with her favorite
right.
tree. And she
Mm-hmm.
would go almost every single day for, I would say, close over a year. You were going like
Yeah,
almost every day.
for sure,
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead
forever.
now.
Yeah, no, I was, and I would. And so anyway, Elizabeth mentioned out of nowhere today, because I've been talking about other restaurants and other places. She's like, wait a minute, what happened to that location? That's like your place. It's your jam. You've been there for ever since we could remember. I've been working with Elizabeth. And I was like, oh, I stopped going there. I stopped going there because I haven't had a lot of good experiences with the people serving. And Elizabeth got me to a place where I got really, really deep, like really deep. And she made me realize, so this is why I'm talking about it today. But Elizabeth made me realize that I literally created a whole story around something so magical because I've had experiences in that location that I love so much based on externals, right? Because the people serving weren't that good. And having new weights, and there's just all these things. And so I've tried going to other locations because it's all over the valley, and the experience was the same. And so today
You
I
created a
did. I'm
story
sure I
about
did.
how you were going to be served there at that grocery store. And then that became the narrative for each time you went, regardless of location, was like, I'm just going to be served by people who don't really want to work here.
I created like this limiting belief. And so, okay, I went today through soul because Elizabeth and me got really, really deep. I swear we shifted. Like, I shifted really, really deeply into this place of like, soul has no preference. So I actually mentioned, so like, love is patient, love is kind. We were looking at like love, unconditional love, the truth form of unconditional love, which is our twin flame, which is our journey, where love doesn't record wrongs. And I totally was recording wrongs of this beautiful location from past experiences, and now no longer having current, new, present moment experiences because of the past experience. So I went today from this place of soul, and I swear, I don't even know how long the wait was. If there was a wait, I don't even think there was a wait. I don't even know. I wasn't paying attention to it. I was really present and I was experiencing it. And I swear, I called Elizabeth and I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt really powerful being there as soul, like being really, really present with the experience and facing the mind's fears of not having a good experience. And I even said, like, what a shame. I was judging my now experiences from something that happened in the past or something that can happen in the future. Why don't I experience this here and now and just be totally present with it? So what? So what if there's a line? So what? Like, who cares? And none of it happened. It was a very, oh, I remember this place. I love this place. Why did I stop going here? That's totally what I did. Like now, today. Going today, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this place. Why did I stop going here? Well, I stopped going because I was judging the experience as recording wrongs. I was in mind about something so magical and beautiful. This place that is so sacred to me because I have little niches that I go into and just be in, right? Elizabeth would say I'd go there and work and just be next to my favorite tree. I can't even be next to my favorite tree because I was totally in mind of the experience of the location without even realizing I was creating those experiences through my limiting beliefs. And it was me like judging, allowing the externals to impact my current experiences. And that's what we're doing when we judge our interactions with things that hurdle us, or we think, or so we think, and I'm going to quote that, or so we think it's impacting our ascension, is so we think is impacting our ability to align with soul. well, my dogs are doing this, my kids are doing this, my parents are doing this, everyone else, the externals, right? So for me, it was like the weight I had to wait on, again, externals. When I realized going there as a third party observer, really, really being present, I am peace. I am literally peace. And I'm missing out on the beauty of the now. I was missing out on the now, where when I was working on my spiritual journey and blaming my kids for not allowing me to align with soul, I learned how to be present and align with soul while they were allowed. I literally would meditate while I could hear my son's soccer ball hitting the wall. I was using the vibration of the house as my way to be present. And I did that today. Like when I was ordering, I could hear the waterfalls drop. I swear, I was like, how did I give away my present moment? It's so much power to give away your ascension to externals, right?
I really want to commend you on it, because it also is very empowering to own your energy, own your experiences, and realize that you get to create this now moment. And that's exactly what you did. You were able to say, I'm not going to let the limiting beliefs of the past become my future, and I'm going to do something about it. And that's where a lot of people get stuck on. And you worked through that today. And regardless of what kind of situation it could be implemented with anything, because that's how we live through the subconscious, is based on the limiting beliefs that we have about those things, those places, those beings, those people, those animals. And we recreate, like, it's like Joe Dispenza, we recreate 99.9% of our thoughts and our manifestations based on the limiting beliefs we've like had stories in our head going over and over on repeat. You today just recreated your moment based on knowing that you were the creator and you're owning your energy.
I totally felt like I was parting water in the sea. I'm like, oh, like that. I'm going to stay in soul. Mine wants to be here. Mine wants to judge. I'm soul. And it was like slow motion. I could hear the waterfalls falling. And then I could see my mind being like, usually there's a way. Like, I swear, I was like watching the mind 10 feet above, being able to be really, really, truly, really, really present. And almost makes me realize, okay, so when I was in Addictive Energy during separation, social media was a big thing for me, guys. You guys all know it was a big thing during separation, especially for those who are in members only. They know like which one was my breaking point. And this goes back to this Elizabeth's question today, where she's like, what's the purpose of the addictive energy? Well, the purpose of the addictive energy is to be able to identify that those addictive energy is not you. And so what I've been doing in my journey now is when I feel a part of me starting to activate that addictive energy, that breaking point that broke, that got me to this place of union now. And I'm sure all of you guys are going to have this place of resonance within that knows your breaking point of never pushing again. Seriously, I have a breaking point of looking at all his stuff and then finding him post stuff really happy, and it made me realize like, wow, why am I suffering here when he's okay? And like I felt like crap looking at his stuff. It was like my breaking point of not needing to ever leak again. I can't leak again. I can't ever be back on that addictive energy again. And so it's almost like now I get to be slow motion with addictive energy. I get to be conscious of it, even though it's really loud and distracting, kind of like our kids and the dogs and the externals, right? There's this breaking point in your journey where you have to stay conscious because you choose you. It's you now. Like the addictive energy's purpose was to recognize soul, be soul, and no longer allow mind to overtake your consciousness. And that was my breaking point. My breaking point was like, I'm never going to do this again. And that's something you guys can do in this journey now. Like this song used to trigger me. You know, instead of turning it off, let me hear it. I'm just going to face my fears and see if it was my mind that was creating stories that was limiting me from balancing this right now. How can I work with this now to allow myself to work on my ascension now without blaming externals that's keeping me from working on my ascension now? How can I be present with it 10 feet above, right? If it's our kids being too loud, if it's our dogs showing us duality, if it's the mind seeing the stories, how can we be conscious?
We watch the energy instead of identify as the energy. So what you said with like the song, like I know, and I've said this before in another video, I used to hear songs and I used to become the addictive energy. And now I can hear those same songs. I could see where the energy had come from, but I'm never going to identify with it anymore. Like it's just now me watching that the energy could come out and I could go back to identifying, but I'll choose never to do that.
Where is that point, right? Like, where is that line? Where did it become to this place balanced now where someone says, oh, that song doesn't touch me anymore? You know what I mean? Like, where did that happen? Where did the shift happen internally where you're no longer in addictive energy with that song, with that, social media? Because we have another beautiful soul that has such a problem with social media that it's making them push, and it's like, I can't even go back to that anymore. Where is that line drawn in the sand of consciousness?
I think the line is, am I going to allow this to put me back to sleep? Because that's what happens when you start identifying as the energy. Am I going to allow this to put me back to sleep? Or can I stay conscious, recognize that this energy is not me, and work through it instead of like enmesh myself in it?
Yeah, that's totally the progress. Like, for all of you guys who's not sure, like, am I even close to union? Is this even real? What's going on? How have you worked through the energies where you can now see your person's car, see your person's workplace, have somebody come up to you and ask you about your person, and you're no longer triggered? How can you get a text from your person and you're no longer in this addictive energy where you need to respond really, really quickly? Like Elizabeth was saying, when she first was immersed in this addictive energy, like, she didn't even know what was happening. She was already looking at every single post and comment he was doing, right? How do you get to this place now where you're like, yeah, no, I don't need Twitter, right? That's the progress.
It's consciousness. I'm going to stay conscious in watching this instead of become unconscious, become asleep, and allow myself to identify back as that, as the thoughts, as the feelings, as the emotions, because you're either choosing to stay conscious and aware that you are not those thoughts, emotions, energies, or you're going back to sleep and you're becoming them.
It's actually really, really cool. Like, I swear, a big, huge download is like, the purpose of the addictive energy is to get you into this level of consciousness, elevated now to this capacity to not be touched by those things that were triggering your addictive energy. Like, to see your progress to this extent, and it's an accumulation of your levels of consciousness increased, right? Because did I get to this place where I was stalking, right? You were stalking their social media, to now I don't need that. My person sends me things through it, but I'm not needing it. And I'm now conscious of it because I know what addictive energy feels like. And I know I'm never going to go back there again. Do you guys all see the shift and differences between the energies of first, the pressure of addictive energy being addictive energy, to the extent of now the watcher of the addictive energy, which is literally what we're doing every day. That is literally the journey. All of you balancing your now moments, and every now is you getting deeper within yourself from no longer being associated as the addictive energy, as mind, as push, to now conscious of the energies and not become them, to be the watcher, to be unswayed, to be so elevated in your scale of consciousness, you are unfazed, untouched, on like you'll never be that way again, ever. Ever. I'm never going to push like that again. I'm never going to be in mind like that again, because I choose me so much that it's like, I don't even know what that looks like. You know, I don't even know what it looks like, to where I will go to his social media and care so much. I cared so freaking much. You know, like I cared so much about what story he would make or create. And he hasn't done those at all, ever. And even if he did, I don't even think I'd watch it, because I'd probably be in his story. Like I would be the story because I'm so focused on me now. The shift has been about, the shift is me. This time I was trying to figure out his story, and for me to be in his story, I've had to make the story about me. This whole video is really for all of you guys to be able to be the conscious observer of the addictive energy, because it serves a purpose. The purpose of those addictive energy, the activation within you that's making you no longer be as pushy, as spiking with those things that used to spike, is the progress, is showing you that you're able to balance more and more and more and more things of your now conscious moments, so that you're no longer pushing the way you used to push. And this is why so many of you are able to balance so deeply in your exact present moments, because you're using every present moment as a way to balance your every now, which is literally the journey. Because me and Elizabeth, what did we tell you? What did we tell you we do every day? We balance. We balance when we're with our kids and her dog. We balance those things, because those are the things that help us stay balanced and conscious and present and being soul, which is required to sustain while we are physically with our souls in the physical. We love you guys so much. We hope you felt these shifts. I know it was really, really, really deep. Multiple downloads being downloaded. I feel like me and you, Elizabeth, were always having these downloads and insights that's beyond what we even thought we were going to get and receive when we first recorded.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like, woo, what was that? And even if, let's say I decided let's record tomorrow or next week, I don't think I could re-record this video, because this video was supposed to be created right now. It was created right now at the right moment in time, space, reality, with all of you in this co-creation of reveal of this message, because it's not going to be duplicated. This will never be able to duplicate. I don't even know what we received in downloads from just creating this video. And
Joanne's been editing all weekend, right? Because like last week we had some crazy videos where we just kept hitting record, and they were like getting better and better and better every single time.
I know.
And she was like, I was listening and I don't even know. I
don't even know where it was. You know what it is? It feels like it's not even us talking anymore. It feels like we're just talking through source, like, because I know I can't duplicate it. I know I can't think it. I can't think it because it wasn't from thoughts. Hope you guys do enjoy these downloads and conversations that soul is bringing all of you as you get deeper in this ascension, deeper in your twin flame journey, and deeper into your alignment with soul. We love you so much. We hope you have an amazing day. Bye, love.
Bye, love.